I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have any additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, do we get a motion for the agenda approval and the minutes for the December 3rd?
So made. Second.
Made by Jan, second by Ellen. Any discussion on the minutes? Then hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve both?
Motion to.
Oh, I mean, raise your hand for the two.
All in favor?
All in favor. Thank you. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Okay. We're going to start out here with some thoughts on some 2020 goals for the year. What we would like to try to accomplish this year. Some thought on that. It may take another meeting or two before this really is worked out. But we need to talk about moving forward. Obviously, everyone knows we have lost Tava House as a developer on our project, which we wish them all the very best. And I'm not sure personally where they're moving to, but if we can help them in our DDA district, wherever they're going, I would hope that we would all agree that that would be something we want to do. And past that, we've got coming up the proposal or the development update. We'll wait to get to that. But I would really hope that we can focus on the cog car site. We obviously are going to have more discussions about what we want to do with it. I would personally hope it could be part of that development of Woodland Station, and from there, as we move forward, should be our focus for the year. However, I want us to keep in mind the existing business we have. I'd like to see us revisit our grant program and how we can help the existing businesses do upgrades, beautification, that kind of thing, with some financial help if we have it for grant projects. Past that, I would like to hear some input from the board.
No.
Tanner, start with you. Let's go around the
well,
table.
just one thing that comes to mind as treasurer is stay within budget for goals. See if we can beat our budget and put some extra money away and prepare ourselves for 2021 to possibly accelerate that service. I think making that a priority is, we've talked about it before. Noel brought it up at the last meeting, I think, and it needs to remain a goal. Another one that comes to mind is the city's placemaking effort that Sally Riley's been spearheading, and staying behind her and supporting that process, I think, is important, and a lot of good things can come from that. So for this body to support that effort would be a goal I think we can, I'll throw out there to see if... Both
of those are really good.
Yeah.
And we really are dedicated to our debt service. We really are. That needs to be a priority, I think. Hopefully we do. Anything else?
No.
Jerry?
Oh, no, it's Al's turn.
Oh. Okay, Al, go ahead.
This may take a while, but I've been on the DDA board for quite a number of years, and I've seen us move forward to a certain degree, and then the proposals tend to fizzle out, and we have not come to a conclusion on much of this stuff. I'm looking to propose that we change the scope of this board. I want to change the scope so that we can prepare a product in Woodland Station that can result in a sale. So this is going to require the redirection of our involvement in this. I've been in, real estate to some degree for quite some time, and I've always found that if you have a product that the potential buyer can say, yes, I see what all of the issues are, then I can go ahead and make plans. So this becomes more of a complete package. We have to recognize that Woodland Park is a small market area. Our thoughts in the past have been that we would have a very extensive development there, but it appears from a number of attempts that it's not big enough. So we have to reevaluate what our capabilities are with that particular piece of ground. We have market studies, and we've had a number of them for years. And probably in those, if you really get to looking at them, there's a lot more, and this is probably the bad word, but there's a lot of fluff in there that really doesn't apply to our market area very well, because the depth is not there to support those particular businesses. I would like to have the board recognize that in this board we do not have the expertise nor the volunteer time necessary to properly define this particular piece of property leading to a marketable piece. Therefore, we're going to be needing to come up with other skill sets. And I'm using the word planner, and I'm not sure that that's the proper word, but the idea is that we have a professional who deals with land, its development, and its preparation for sale. Then I'll go later, there's a second expertise that I want to propose that the board look at. The planner then can certainly develop strategies to solve a variety of issues that might be on that particular piece of ground. The planner can then work through various regulatory bodies and professional facilities to help define where there are bumps in the road and see if there's a way that we can get those smoothed out to make it easier for a developer to come in and actually do that work. The planner can work with a potential buyer. There's a lot of things that go into developing a site for any type of construction and utilization. To go through some of those, the planner can work with a buyer to give him a clue on which planning department that they've got to work with, help him work through the architectural and design recommendations, work with the fire department, work with utility departments, electrical, telecommunication development, engineering studies, drainage, streets, parking. Surveying is necessary. Interior subdivision lines may be necessary. Traffic study, working with CDOT. And then there's the financial component of it too, to help work through what's it going to cost, that they can help work with them to give them an information source. And these are just some of the stuff that goes into, doing this. Street designs. None of us here are skilled to the point where we can give input to a potential buyer on any of these things. And that's why I wanted to say perhaps a planner that can review what the applicant would like to do and then see how it can work. Additionally, there may be some regulations that are currently on the books that we want to review and either modify or remove to allow this to go forward. We've got the Woodland Station disposition agreement, that's in the mix. We've got the overlay district. We've got the design review committee, and there's other regulations and physical barriers that might encumber development. And we probably need to look at those. Working with a planner, my thoughts are that the planner will bring to the board, here's what I find, and here is the recommended mitigation of that particular thing. This is where the board belongs, not in developing the stuff that the buyer is particularly anxious about. Then the other part of this is a professional marketer. As hard as we try as a board, we are not professional marketers. And we would probably need to seek that skill set to know where we can reach out to, who we can talk to see who might be interested in a small project like this. Our board can't do that. We don't have the time, we don't have the skills. That's where we have a professional marketer. So I'm proposing that we develop a system whereby we have 2 sets of professional people. Each of us here on this board have certain skill sets and professional expertise in your occupations. But there's probably not too many here who have tried to sell a developmental piece of ground. So we don't have the skill set sitting here, though we've tried. And we've not been that successful. So that's why I'm proposing that we look at developing a system where we have 2 skill sets, a planner type, and that's kind of a generic term, and then we have a professional marketer to work with that particular piece of ground and tell us what we need to do to get it sold.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Al. Comment from the board.
They want the budget. Unless Al knows some nice philanthropical people that will donate their time and operating energy to do that, but that sounds like a very expensive proposal to me. Very expensive.
Yeah. Now, a professional marketer, and again, I don't know who that person would be, but usually they get a commission at sale. The planner would be a person that would receive compensation for hours worked. And none of this am I proposing that we look for an executive director. No. I'm wanting to bring the board back to policy setting, hire skill sets to accomplish our goals, and bring those to us.
Jerry?
Well, I feel we're on the cusp of development. In all the years that I'm familiar with the DDA, this is we're right at the edge there. So I think maybe that might be jumping the gun a little bit. Let's give it a little bit of time to see how this plays out, the current proposals, and I think we're capable of getting it through that far.
And I can certainly appreciate that particular reflection on it. It's that I have been through it so many times that it does not come to fruition.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's why I was trying to think of what can we do that's different. Even today, I have not seen an application that Ellen and I prepared and the board approved for that particular project that you're talking about. So it's still out there. We do not have an application for use of that land. Just talk.
And I know that.
And the talk doesn't do it anymore for me, because we've had too much talk for the last, 15 years or whatever it happens to be. I'm looking for some action.
I think by continuing to go forward with the development. And, I mean, right now we're saving money because we have NES working with us, and we are using prior stuff that we have compiled to help cut that cost. A real estate person in that type of market, almost everybody that has approached me, I've had people approaching me wanting to sell the UDIN, okay? They want 12% is what they want.
Sure.
Okay? And in the world of business, we find that talk is cheap. Talk's very, very cheap. However, we've got three elements. We have good, we have fast, we have inexpensive. Now we get to pick two, because we ain't getting number three. That's the way business works. If you want it good and fast, it's going to be expensive. If you want it inexpensive and fast, it ain't going to be good. So I think what we're shooting for is good. And so we either need to find that person with, you know, I mean, if money were easy to come by, this thing would already be done. And that's always the issue, is money.
Yeah.
Developers are trying to get in. Developers will always try to get in. And any prudent and intelligent and business person is going to try and get in as inexpensive as possible.
Sure.
And come out as good as possible. So I'm not looking at this being any a hugely fast project as we go down the road. I mean, it's going to take time, because we're also dealing with all the regulation, CDOT, everything else, and we want to make sure this is done correctly. So it's not going to be cheap and it's not going to be fast. But at the end of the day, what we're going to wind up with is something that complements our city and makes it good. I mean, anybody here opposed to hiring a planner and hiring the people with these skill sets to go out there and do that? But unless we find that, and not everybody has the skill sets, even the engineers, after driving through. Anybody been on Woodman and Academy lately?
Oh, yeah.
That intersection? Outstanding development there, man. They have wrecks there all the time because all the traffic patterns are like this. And that was done by a professional engineer, Al.
Well,
So
yeah.
at the end of the day, you know, it's we've got to watch. I mean, our budget won't handle.
Two things on that.
So it's going to take time.
Two things on that. One, this is going to require a mindset change on all of us board members. And we've got to be willing to allow a professional set. And we've got to find out what it's going to cost, too. I understand that. But 15 years of poking around has not developed anything of significance there.
Well, we know why
So
part of that 15 years has been with the lawsuit, we couldn't do anything.
Well,
So some of that has been in that.
There's that, but then there's also the recession that went through
Exactly.
in that time frame. So yes, you know, there are
So
extenuating
there are
circumstances.
Okay.
So we've got to change direction, is what I'm proposing.
Well, let me say this. Point well taken. And I think that you really do make some viable requests or ideas. I don't think that we should discard that. I think that at this point, let's table that. Let's move on to the report from the developers that we do have on board with us now. We have already committed to NCS? NES.
Yes, yeah.
And let's see how that comes out, keeping this definitely on the front burner as well. No?
We do have a workshop tomorrow night, I believe. Maybe we could add this to the agenda.
I'd say yes. I mean,
Because
that's merit.
this is a conversation that could go on for hours with
It
us.
could.
Yes.
For sure.
It could.
And
And that's
It's a
why I
workshop.
think we need
It's a
to.
workshop discussion.
and
Yeah.
maybe that
And
way, Al, thank you for bringing that up, because now we can all think about it.
Yeah.
And
It is a huge change for us. We're going to get into an area that may be uncomfortable to some people. And
Well-
that's all part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what we've done in the past hasn't yielded, and we're looking forward to that.
Well,
Do
again,
you have the application form filled out by the person that is contemplating
we
it?
will find that out in the report, because I don't know that.
Okay.
If you're asking me, I don't know that.
Okay.
Well,
But
quick
these guys
answer is
should
no.
know.
No. Okay.
Then
I'll just- to
that
answer that.
needs to
So anybody can come in and make a proposal yet.
Well, that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed since 2000 and, I don't know, whenever we were under agreement, 16,
And that's
15 when we terminated.
That's a consistent facet of all the stuff that we had historically. We've gotten lots of cheap talk, or talk, however you want to call it, but we didn't get to fruition.
Let me say
And I want
this.
to do that.
Let's move on and get into the reports.
I just-
Okay, Murph.
One real quick, okay? Target, all right? Where's our goal? And we need to go backwards from there. We need to know what that goal is.
Begin with the end
All
in
right,
mind.
begin with the end. You always start with your end state and then back it up. What has to happen at each point? Okay, and that way you can see how long it will take and everything else, and have all those dollars and dimes assigned to where it's going to go. Okay.
Okay. Tanner, did you have anything more to say?
Well, I do have some thoughts on it, I guess. Just initial reaction is largely, I agree very much with what Al is saying, that our role shouldn't be to execute the development planning and processes required to bring about development. But I would take that same concept maybe to a little different perspective and say, what is the government's role in planning development in the first place? This body has spent a lot of money, about $1 million, hiring professionals, planning development, marketing property to no avail. Or maybe to some. There is a hardware store, a multi-million-dollar facility, employing people, paying lots of tax. Some infrastructure's installed, so there has been some progress. But I'm not sure with the current proposal that we've been working with, that still is in the planning phase, and with NES recently hired, who is a planner, a professional planner, that has a lot of familiarity with the property and is beginning to draw, some of the uses and potential lines for subdivision and access and drainage, etc. I think we're as poised for progress as we've ever been. And hiring that planner is, I think, my understanding is we did that very much because of what Al's saying. We're not the individuals who should be drawing those things. And leaving it to the developer is one approach, but we had two developers and two different plans that had to come together so that we could go forward with the development. So in any event, I guess I just want to say, for the most part, I agree.
Yeah,
But I question scope and how much do we want to put into, how much money, how much resource do we want to put into hiring professionals to plan development that's speculative. And at this time, when we have a developer that has their own plans and proposed uses, and we're in that phase, I'm not sure if it's a good time to get sidetracked with rethinking the process, if that makes sense.
Very much so.
Till this one plays out.
Yes.
Which, like Al mentioned, after how many years of doing this, and how many times have parties been interested and made proposals, and then ultimately it fails? What are the odds that this one is going to materialize? That's a good question.
Yeah.
But I do think in good faith we need to follow this one through. So.
Good. That's apparently some good information you're going to have when we get down to the updates. Jerry, anything else? Jan?
I don't totally agree with what Al said, because we have hired NES. And as far as a planner with dealing with CDOT and regulations and whatever. The lady sitting in the third seat over there with blonde hair, you don't get much more professional than that. And she knows all of that. And so I don't see any reason to try to hire somebody who's got knowledge of how to deal with CDOT and everything, because we have her right there. And she never fails. When anybody goes to her about anything, she always has the answer. So why would we hire somebody else who doesn't have the expertise that she does? And after, is it 32 years?
Almost 35.
How much more professional do you want to get?
Okay.
I don't
Thank you,
disagree
Jan.
with what he's saying, that we do, but we've already started down that road. We do have NES, and we have Sally, and I think that we need to follow through with what we have. I mean, he's
Okay.
right, but there are circumstances beyond anyone's control as to why some of those things haven't panned out. And it's not all because we don't have the expertise. There are other factors that we have no control over, so we need to follow through. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Murph, anything else?
I would suggest that our number one goal during this year, and we already have a potential developer, our number one goal is to see what we can do to get that developer to react and make it happen. Is
Okay.
there, I mean, that's our
Nothing seems to deter that.
Okay.
ROI.
No?
So I will have to, being on the DDA for as long as some of us have and I have, I think the DDA as a whole has been successful. We have brought a lot of businesses to town. Our only Achilles heel that we seem to be running into is Woodland Station. We've had many opportunities. If I look back at all the developers that came to Woodland Station, infrastructure was what I feel was the thing that caused them to move on. It was always infrastructure. And so maybe we have to look at the DDA and the city being part of the infrastructure first. And then I think the developers will build. But every time we sit down here and we talk about development, infrastructure always comes up. And that, to me, is always the breaking point where they say how much, and then they move on. So we can hire a planner, we can hire all these people, but the bottom line is it's the infrastructure that's making them move on. So I hope that's not going to be an issue with this current project. I hope we can work with them. I do see the DDA as bond limited. I think we're bonded out. I don't think we can borrow any more money to assist. So we definitely have some challenges. I think we're a smart group. We learn. I hope we learn. And so hopefully the next year, the next 10 years is going to be a big change in Woodland Park. But I think infrastructure is going to be the key to that development. But I will say as a whole, in the last 15 years, the DDA has been successful. I mean, we've brought businesses here, and that was the whole purpose initially in 2001 when this was established, that our goal was to bring businesses up here and give them a little bit of tax relief.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ellen?
2020 should be a good year, I think. I think the DDA has had success in the time it's been operating. I think one of the major goals for the DDA and in the development of Woodland Station is trying to organize ourselves and that property and get a price per square foot or acre or whatever. I know it's somewhat difficult because we have to have infrastructure type negotiations in that pricing. But I think that has been a deterrent, certainly for past developers. I also would like to say I think we do have a great planning department, and we certainly have their input and cooperation for us in our projects.
Okay. Al, you got any more to say?
Other than And here's where the planner starts to come in. Rather than NES will give us a lot of information. How important it is, I don't know until I see it. But NES isn't going to define, and assuming that there's a building on the plans, NES is not going to tell us what we're going to need for a fire suppression system in that building. The planner can work through that and get that accomplished. Drainage study,
Okay,
as an example, electrical requirements, all that kind of stuff. That's outside what our planning department can do. So, yes, planning department is an excellent source, but we have to have more professional help to make this thing a complete project. Yeah.
okay, thank you. Dick?
I like what Noel had to say about the infrastructure. I think that's definitely one of the things that's holding us up. Also, it's time. You know, these developers want to develop in X amount of time. Unfortunately, this property is a government-type entity, which is slow. So I think that's a lot of what's, hindering us too. They want to get that property, they want to get to developing and going, but there's so much things that we have to do to take care of that. And I agree a little bit with Al too. There's some guidance that we could use, but the time and the infrastructure is it. But keep working with these developers. I think we've got a pretty good potential with the developer that we have. We may not have all the applications done, but in the last few months they've seemed pretty. And I think the hard part for us too is we were trying to take two kids with two different balls and get them to play together, and that was a hard part for us. So.
Okay, well, moving forward, I think this is good.
Good discussion.
Yes, good discussion. We'll keep it on the front burner as we move forward. We'll move on to the Cobb train car. Tomorrow night we're having a workshop. It will be at the Country Lodge at 6 o'clock, and the public is welcome. We would like to start out opening it to the public for comments in the beginning, and then we'll have our workshop discussion after that. We'd like everyone to come that has any input. And any more questions? 6 o'clock, Country Lodge. Oh, and Jan, I'd like to refer to Jan. She set this meeting up, and there will be food.
I have menus that they gave me from Country Lodge, and I'm going to meet with Laura, Mark's daughter, at 11 o'clock this morning. I'd like to pass these around. Give me a suggestion of what you would like to have, because if there's something that we want that they don't have, they can go get it today to get it prepared for tomorrow. And that will expedite ordering at the beginning of the meeting and waiting for food, and they'll have it all ready. So I'm going to send it down to Tanner and just write it on the back, your name and what you want, and I'll hopefully be able to get it.
Okay,
They have a catering menu and then a regular menu that you can order off, so just you can look at both. And I just want to make sure that that's all taken care of to expedite that, so when we get there, food's ready.
Okay.
So,
And this will just be for the board, basically. And
just for the board.
yes, and if the public would like to eat
They are
or
welcome
drink,
to order
they can
whatever they
order
want.
off of the menu, if that's okay.
Tomorrow night, yeah. I have no way of knowing who's going to show up at this meeting, so this is just for the board.
Okay, is there any questions about tomorrow night? So put your ideas on paper and bring them then. Okay, moving on. The development proposal. I would refer to Tanner on the development. Please fill us in on how it is moving forward.
Well, at the moment, things seem to be rolling along rather well, aside from the fact that the Tava House has changed locations. But that seems to be something of a positive for the Christian Williams group, who's very, very excited right now about the possibilities for use of the property. So most recent correspondence with Mike Williams was yesterday, and it was very short and sweet. He's just really excited and was expressing that. He's looking forward to what NES comes up with, and we are expecting the first documents from NES this week. something of an organizational chart outlining steps going forward, leading up to through subdivision and some of the requirements that we'll face along the way, and then also an initial concept site plan.
Water, no ice, that's your dinner.
So, more progress to be made this week.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And I would like to, this board, I think, would really like to meet with the Williams Christensen group. I mean, whether they've got plans ready or not, I think that it's time we talk with them as a whole group. Can you set something up?
And Mike Williams has mentioned that. He's ready to come here, sit down, meet and greet and discuss ideas and to help get all this out into the public, which is another priority that's been discussed. What they proposed has remained confidential, and at this point, I think we're all feeling the pressure to get that plan out there so that the public knows what it is we're working on, what it is they're proposing, and it's our hope that this concept plan drafted by NES will give us something professional to put forward and be understandable to the public, to see that plan and understand what it is we're working on.
Good. That's good news. Any comment from the board to ask about this development? Murph, have you got anything you'd like to put in from
No,
as part of the
I'm
negotiating committee?
I'm pleased with how it's going right now, and Tava House. That's two slices. They're not gone. They're not giving up their project. Okay, they're moving to hopefully to a spot that is going to work out for everybody. Is what I'm hoping. It's going to be something that we wanted to see.
And when Victor Matthews comes, whoa, what a coup that's going to be.
Go ahead.
Not for Woodland Station, but
Go
in
ahead,
Canton.
Tanner.
Just two more things on that note. One, with the challenge we faced with Tava House goes directly back to the infrastructure and the property, the challenges with the property, and it's not very surprising, it's particularly in light of the long history of the property, that they've chosen to pursue property that is already subdivided, has a lot of infrastructure surrounding it, and is ready to go. It is not in our district, so it does not look like there's anything we'll be able to do to participate with them on that project. But, you never know. That plan may change too. They may move on to somewhere else. But in any event, the COG train car is a big question mark in the development planning right now. So we're looking forward to tomorrow's work session. I say that on behalf of George Christian and Mike Williams as well. They're very anxious to know what comes of that because they are proposing use of the car, and whether that's going to be allowed or not is very important to them. So just wanted to say that at this point.
Okay, that will be addressed then tomorrow night. Discussion about that. We may have to have a couple of meetings. No, we'll see. Okay. Well, I'm excited about it. If they're excited to still be a part of this, then that's good news. We haven't lost them.
Well,
Jerry?
I just have a question. Just it's real simple terms. Is this legit? I mean, is this coming through? We just are talking and talking. What's your take on it? Are we there?
I'm not sure if I fully understand.
Do they
you.
have
Yes,
the
it's
funds?
going-
Do they have the
it's
funds to
going-
back up the talk?
Is it?
Okay. It's a really good question. We don't have any financial statements from them yet, but the evidence that we do have, they're both successful businessmen. Mr. Williams has a number of businesses established in high tourist areas that have been very successful, and our dealings with him, he's been very professional. He's articulate and prompt, and professional. And I don't know what to do other than continue moving forward in good faith that they are capable of what they're proposing. Now that said, as with the other, the Tava group, the Williams group seems to be wanting to avoid any extra cost on their part. They, I think, would very much like for us to fund as much of the development as we can. Any off-site improvements, any public improvements, infrastructure improvements, minimizing the footprint of the private properties, such, so that they're not paying for maintenance and the property taxes on anything beyond just what they need as their own private property. So their approach to it seems to be pretty savvy, which I interpret as experience, a sign of experienced business people. So I think we'll know more pretty soon as we have a plan that comes forward, a document that comes forward that everyone here, this body, can review and hopefully approve, and can go to the city for review and approval. We'll be at a point to start putting numbers on paper, and the rubber will hit the road.
Yeah, I'm just anxious.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Okay, any more discussion, any more questions on the negotiating committee? Then let's move on to general discussion. Nick, have you got anything for general discussion?
No.
Okay.
It's January.
Al?
I may have bloviated enough already, but, and even in this, as our discussions were here, I can see various aspects where a professional person, can be very productive to the whole project. As we mentioned, we have to worry about a lot of engineering that goes into it. And if we have some people that are moving into town to do a project, they're not going to know the ropes. And this is where a planner can help guide them through it and say, yes, you've got to get with the fire department. Yes, they've got to look at your plans. They've got to know that even though you only want a 3/4 inch water line coming in, for the fire suppression system, you're going to need a 2-inch.
Okay.
And on each one of them has got to have a backflow prevention device.
I
Those
guess
kinds of things.
We've got the message.
Yeah.
We've got the message.
Yeah.
Okay, Ellen.
I've lost the train of thought.
General discussion.
General discussion.
Whatever you want.
No, I've been looking at this. No, I'm good for right now. Thank you.
Okay. No?
I think any developer that comes into Woodland Park and is interested in Woodland Station, we should do everything we possibly can to assist. We need to be positive. We need to not put any negative thoughts out there. Regardless whether it succeeds or doesn't succeed, we at least need to give 110% effort on our part. And regardless whether, I hope Tava House is successful, because that means Woodland Park is successful. I hope the development coming in is going to be successful. Time is always a measure, but I think this board needs to do everything we can to make it a positive experience, because Woodland Station, you're right, it has been a dirt patch for a long time, and I think any change there will help. But I do go back to infrastructure, and if things go how history tells, maybe this board does need to reevaluate how we look at this lot, and maybe we have to look at how we can get infrastructure there prior to any development, where we might have to be the people that put that in there. And if you drive around Colorado Springs and you look at all the development going on, Interquest is a perfect example. If you drive through Interquest, you will see all the development going on there. But what the key thing is that the roads were already there. And that's because I work there, so I see the development. And so infrastructure was already there, and you can see the sign saying pads already developed, infrastructure already there, and the growth is off the chart there. I mean, I feel like that's going to be another city here in the next 5 to 6 years. So,
Good point.
Positive, positive.
I agree with the positive part.
Yeah.
Do everything we can to make it happen. Any more? No.
I'll
Murph?
move on.
All right, so one of the number one things our developers are going to be looking at is ROI. What is and how fast are they going to see a return on their investment? Plain and simple. That is what the developer's about, okay? And until you can show me what size, type, and area of the plan, I can't tell you, what type of sprinkler system I can put in. That is the project manager's job, Al. I'm not seeing how we can get a jump start on that type of thing. But at the end of the day, okay, I get it. There are certain areas we can go to. So in looking at our increased, as we're going here, if the state institutes a $15 an hour minimum wage, we may never see development. Quite simply. It's just getting too expensive. It's just not a great place. This last summer, I had tourists walking in my place looking at my prices, and I only did a 10% increase. Look at my menu, put it down, and walk right back out the door. Tourist. Why? Because we're surrounded by cheap states, and that's where all of our tourists come from, or a huge number of them, okay? The East Coast tourists are not nearly as bad because they're used to paying high prices, okay? So, on that note, what do we have to do? We've got to get this town to booming economically. We've got to figure out how we get those people in here, okay? I repeat every time we talk about the economy, all right? I would rather have 10% of Colorado Springs business than 100% of our own.
Lower your prices.
Lower his taxes.
Yeah.
Just said they went up 10%.
They did, and
There he
so
is, right there.
and I mean, I'm super hesitant this year. I mean, I have to raise prices, but I'm super hesitant about how much I do that because, quite simply, everything is exponential, and it's going to be exponentially more costly to me in taxes and FICA and this and that and everything else. Okay, and I will already tell you that 10% increase was not enough. I finished below the line last year, or this year, on over 7 figures in business. Okay? Reportables. Business is relative. We've got to figure out how to get people into this town. That's all there is to it. We survive off of tax proceeds. That's where it is. So maybe you can talk to the city council and get Darren to put the $3 million in.
Yeah, I'm going to move my head over here.
Yeah. So, but planning on, I'd love to see it. How could we get the infrastructure in place? There again, it's always, what is it? It's money. It's always revolves around the money. Okay, the return on investment. How economically feasible is it? Are we going to be able to pull it in? Because I'll guarantee you, people are not up there doing this because they want to offer a free college tuition to every kid in the United States. Okay? They're working on it because they want to see nickels back in their own pocket. And that's where it always goes back to. How are we going to get this town to be
Well,
more
this
economically
development
viable?
that we are going to do is going to be a start.
Well, what I'm saying is return on investment. Exactly. It is a method. Okay, it builds the city's coffers. But how are we going to get those developers? Hopefully, I mean, the group that's coming in is going to see the economic possibilities here. But they're possibilities at this point, or probabilities. Okay, I'll call them probabilities. They'll probably make a profit if they work really hard. At the end of the day, how do we get this town to be economically viable enough that it will support that amount of business? We know we're going to cap here at 14. This area is supposed to cap at 14,000 people. Okay, that's going to be
It's
it.
small.
That's it. That's tiny. All right. Say again.
13.6.
13.6. Okay. So
That is just the city proper.
okay.
Does
So
that include
how do we
students?
capture those people traveling through town? We got 30,000 cars. I mean, I was rolling in here this morning at just a few minutes after 6, and I was like, wow, where's all this traffic coming from? Where the hell are they all going to? Obviously their jobs, but it's a huge amount of traffic. All right. So we with the rising costs of doing business and everything else, it's one of those things.
Yes.
How do we capture more of that travel through? Okay.
It's on a roll.
So hang on a second. So Karen Casey and I are working together. All right. As soon as we get it out, we're going to be inviting people on how we get businesses and the city to collaborate on that economic drive, on advertising, on what are we going to do and how are we going to do it to make it happen. Okay. We want to see the entire town prosper. Not just the Christian Brothers Group or Tava House. Or we want, and even Chef Victor was saying, I want to try and grow the pie. I'm just kind of like, man, that's a bigger that's a bigger job than you know, to grow the pie for everyone. That's a bigger job up here than you know. But working together as a team, we can do it, folks.
Who is Karen Casey?
She's the economic. She was
Community engagement
there you go.
manager
Okay.
for the city.
Oh,
You know
good.
You know Karen.
Okay, that Karen.
She used to be
I
Savage.
didn't know Karen Casey.
So we're already
Okay.
rolling forward. We've
So,
got Darren's.
we
We
will
have
be
Darren's
looking
backing. We have
forward
Karen.
to that.
Everybody's working together. We're going to try and make this, and we're going to come up with ideas that are executable. Okay. So when that comes out, I'll let y'all know. I'll put out an email when this meeting's going to be
Good.
on how the city, DDA, Main Street, and everybody collaborates to make this happen. Okay.
Good,
That was my. I should have said that.
Good. good. Good news. Okay, I'm going to flip the switch here a little bit. We had a good Christmas. I don't think it was, for anybody in town, it was blockbuster, but it was a good Christmas, and I think that people were happy to be in Woodland Park. I personally saw a lot of out-of-state people, a lot of out-of-state, not just visiting family, but vacationing. They came to the mountains to see the snow. So that was a good thing, that it wasn't just family visiting. So that was a good thing, and I'm excited about the COG car. Dwayne came in, and he's going to be at our meeting tomorrow night, and he has got some real good feedback from that. So I hope we can do some events with that this summer to help hold people a little bit longer, do some things on off season, so we'll fit in what you're saying. I think that's good. Anyway, that's all I got to say. 2020, are we ready for the political onslaught?
Forget it.
It's like, oh my, ouch.
Outside crap.
So anyway, we'll get ready for that, but I think it'll be a good year. We're hoping it'll be a good year. We're going to have a positive attitude and move forward. Jan?
You're talking about Christmas, and it was great. A lot of people, that COG, it looks beautiful. The lights on it and everything. I have not heard one negative thing about that COG or the stagecoach. Everybody is thrilled. The placement of it is perfect. It looks like a depot. Nobody really realizes those are toilets. It's perfect. And, all we can do is move forward one step at a time. We can't bite off more than we can chew. So,
Good advice.
and that's what we're doing, putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward.
Jerry?
I'm really glad to see that Murph woke up. We haven't had a good speech from Murph in a while, so good to see her back. I'd like to just, I'm no expert, as Al's pointed out, but infrastructure is part of the developer's burden, and it happens everywhere, even up in Interquest. Those pad sites with the utilities on them and all were borne by the developer, and the cost is reflected on the sale of those. So that is all very much. I don't think we can plan, we can put sewer and water stubs and electrical stubs onto the property, which I think's there, isn't it? But beyond that, it's not up to us to put in the roads and all that kind of stuff. They do it all over the world, and why should Woodland Station be different?
And who knows if it fits in their plan?
Yeah, and it's something new. So I think we're jumping the gun if we do something like that. I think it's not normal to do something like that. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Tanner?
We also had a very good Christmas. It was a short season because Thanksgiving was so late. So for Tweeds, the season was kind of short. That said, it was still very busy, very positive, profitable season and year. So I'm grateful to have had 2019 here in Woodland Park in business, and looking forward to 2020. Signs so far for us are that 2020 is going to be a very, very good year.
Good.
So staying focused on my business instead
Good.
of other things is really important for me going forward.
Yeah, you don't need to sleep at night
Yeah.
with everything else you do.
Only a few hours. In terms of growing the pie, I think Colorado Springs is poised for tremendous growth, particularly if Space Force comes to Colorado Springs. I'm with you. I'd rather have 10% of down the pass than 100% of up it. There's a whole lot more market down there.
You bet.
And in that regard, Moose's Loose is coming up, kicking off February 15th and ending March 1st. So a lot of marketing plans are already underway, and graphics are coming together. Again, this year, the look and feel of Moose's Loose is going to be very, as true to Woodland Park as we're able to make it. Very Wild West,
Good.
bit old-fashioned, cowboys and Indians and stagecoaches and train cars and mountains, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So really looking forward to that, and that's it from me. Thanks, everybody, for a great year.
Yeah.
Here we go, 2020.
I have one more thing that I forgot to mention, is that Main Street gave us another donation towards the car, the horses and carriage of $800 and how many dollars?
Don't recall.
$44,
Yeah.
something like that. $844, which was awesome. Which gave like $1,300 Main Street gave to the carriage and horses. And I think that once we get that landscaped, and we don't know with the new development happens where that carriage and horses is going to finally end up, but it's very movable. It'll be a very decorative, eye-catching, user-friendly, hopefully, for the future.
I
So
got
anyway.
a spot in front of Williams again.
That right. But anyway, that's a
The
good
train
thing.
car being lit up, we noticed a huge surge in activity of people stopping over there, getting out, going over and looking at the stagecoach and the train car.
Wasn't it beautiful?
With it being lit up, it
Yes.
was awesome, okay?
Yes.
I was down in Colorado Springs having lunch with a friend at Good Neighbors over on somewhere in town. I don't know exactly where it was. But I ran across this little thing. It was just a little place. It had a pad. It had some kids had built a railroad car, and it was the concrete couch concept. Folks that had put that out. And it's just a small area to relax, right along the sidewalk, okay? Looking at things like that. But it had an information kiosk there that talked about the railroad, why they had a train, the little train car there and things like that. And then we went over to Manitou and walked around, and I saw the concrete couch concepts. They're kind of awesome. If we can possibly get this, talk to the school, the art department, the welding department, and get the kids excited about baking, the ceramic tiles to build some stuff like that possibly, or whatever it is, that we get our school, we get our kids involved, okay? And this is one of the reasons why I say it. Kids with busy hands don't have time to go out and get in trouble. okay? It saves our court system, our police, and everything a lot of time. So, and maybe if we had a youth movement of some sorts here in town that would engage our kids in doing things, productive stuff that they can walk by and go, I helped build that, and be proud of it, you know? Something for them to do,
They're the future
Okay.
of the town.
we hope. It's up to us
Okay,
to turn
Thank
them
you.
into that.
good. This is another workshop. This is good.
Got it.
Okay. Any comment from the audience? Suzanne?
Thank you, ma'am. I just wanted to remind everybody that the election season is starting for the city of Woodland Park. And as a matter of fact, today is the first day that anyone interested in running for council or mayor can come in and pick up their petitions.
Oh, good. Good information. Thank you. Kurt, thank you for coming, Kurt. Good to see you. Anybody? Sally, do you have anything?
I would like.
Debbie, I'm coming. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion about goals for 2020 and the comments made about placemaking, because that is the placemaking partners. That is Main Street and the Chamber, DDA, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, City, Arts Alliance, all working together for that one goal, which is vitality, economic vitality. And so where our goal is rolling out the red carpet to those folks who do take the chance and stopping in town and getting out of their vehicles and visiting your restaurants and shops and hopefully opening their wallets too. So placemaking partners are already a system in place with the DDA participating. That structure is in place. We have 3 areas that we're focused on, which is the walkability and streetscape, signage, and facade. So having some funding to help your fellow businessmen and women do paint or anything to try to upgrade our curb appeal to folks is what is so important for our little town. We also need as much critical mass as possible. Just one thing here, one thing there doesn't cut it. We have to have a lot of interesting aspects to our community, and that includes the interpretive signage. So, in fact, yesterday the Historic Preservation Committee talked quite a bit about working on a plan for interpretive signage this year. Getting the youth involved would be great. It's one of the hardest things that we can do, because you really have to have someone who can work with the schools directly, excite the kids. It's easy, the talk is easy, but to implement those things is not. But we shouldn't give up. We got to do it. So next Wednesday is the Placemaking Partners meeting. Anybody is welcome to join us. It's at 3:30 in the afternoon in the upstairs conference room. We'll be talking about all those various aspects. And then we're also planning a rollout to the community, because it was a little bit over a year ago that the community came together and gave the input to create the strategies for walkability, signage, and facade improvements. So we want to go back to the business owners, property owners, community, share what those strategies specifically are at this point, what we've accomplished this last year, and where we're headed in the future for 2020, 2021, and get their help in prioritizing those projects. So again, we have the structure in place with Main Street and the Chamber and the City and the DDA. It's a matter of realizing we will work together better. The pieces, the whole is greater than the parts. So let's try to keep that in mind as you plan for the future. And the last thing I'll say is that In 2020, we are doing the comprehensive plan update. If we get the funding from DOLA, in fact, I'm meeting with Clay Brown today. So we're trying to have this long-range vision for the next 10 years with the 2020 comp plan update. Many of you may have participated in the 2010 comprehensive plan. So that will kick off in end of April, May, and then work through the summer with about 7 subcommittees and the Planning Commission and the City Council. Hopefully we'll have a great process of focusing on our future to take advantage of our slow-growing, fabulous community and see what we can do to capture at least, if we could capture 10% of the 30,000 average daily trips that come through town every day. And so I would like you to consider one of your goals is to participate not only in placemaking, but also the update to the comprehensive plan.
Is it the 15th is the placemaking?
Yes.
And
Placemaking.
when is the comprehensive plan?
The comp plan will kick off at the end of April,
Okay.
early May. Our next step is to get the funding
To be
secured
determined.
and a consultant on board. So we'll be working.
I have a
I would
question.
say you can count on us for that. Yes.
Has the Historical Society been invited to tomorrow night's meeting, workshop?
It's just open, we didn't
Well,
invite anybody.
I would like to...
They know about it, and I've invited them, and that's
Okay,
probably
'cause I think
the
they're-
only negative I have heard.
Yeah, I think that their
Yeah, right.
input would be really, and help us orchestrate what we're trying to do. I think the Historical Society is a good feed for that. So
Yeah.
if you haven't been invited, I'd like to invite you.
And I just want to clear up, there are two, the UPass Historical Society, which is housed by the library, that is an independent nonprofit supported by the city with facilities and that sort of thing. Their mission is preserving our heritage and collecting artifacts and exhibits and programs. Then we have the Historical Preservation Committee, which is different than the Historical Society. The Preservation Committee is a appointed board by the City Council to also preserve heritage and preservation of historic places and buildings. So they have the authority to recommend landmarking, whether it's local landmarks or state registry or national registry. So their empowerment comes from a different, and their role is a different aspect than the Historical Society. And I know I just wanted to take a couple
you.
minutes
I did not realize that.
to explain that, because they have two different roles, but they collaborate with one another very strongly.
Well, I think the input, we need the historical part of it, I think, is very important, and maybe some pointers, how to display that, to
Yes.
portray it, and also.
Yes.
I'm very much encouraged.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Sally, if you would, anyone from the Historical Preservation Committee, please come. I didn't realize they were
That would be
separate.
you.
They have,
No, there are 5 members on the Preservation Committee. Lori Gloff is the chair, David Langley, Larry Black, and Jim Unruh, and now Carol Harvey was just recently appointed.
But they don't have in their head what you do.
well, whoever, if you could, would you mind putting that out to them, and they are invited? We'd love to have
I'll
the
certainly
participation.
forward the
And the
invite.
Historical Society knows about it as
And
well.
Donna Finnicle is the
Mhm.
chairman of the Historical
Yeah,
Society.
she knows she knows. Okay. Debbie?
Great positive talk this morning. It's been wonderful in placemaking, the signs, the parking signs.
are great that are already up, and I know we did that through a walking tour and tried to focus more so that the people coming to town know where the parking spots are available in our community. So, Murph, now on to realism. And that
Oh, no lie.
is that the hourly wage did go up to $12 on January 1st. In addition, there was a change to the salaried wage, and where overtime is allowed, it's a little over $34,800. That was done through the Federal Department of Labor, but hold your horses, because come July 1st, the state is looking at changing that as well. This is very onerous on businesses to have to go in, look what they're paying their employees. Come July 1st, they're going to have to be relooking all of that all over again. The Family Medical Leave Act is moving forward in the state. There'll be more discussion with that coming up, and this is a paid Family Medical Leave Act through the state. We'll hear more about it in the next coming weeks, how this is going to roll out. They're talking about creating a new state department that will deal with that, so we'll be monitoring that as well. I sent out last month, toward the end of the month, there is a grant available through the Pikes Peak Workforce Center for Teller and El Paso County for employers who are looking for additional training for their employees. There's a workshop this Friday that's available to those employers to come learn how to apply for that grant. There's $111,000 that's available for training, so we hope people in Teller County will take advantage of that. In addition, this Thursday, we have a training that's going to be taught by one of our local tax accountants about how you collect sales tax and report it out. Due to the Wayfair legislation, there's a difference about how we report that tax out now. If there's product that's bought, it's going to be going somewhere else other than Woodland Park. We need to stay in compliance with our businesses on that. So that's at 11:30 on Thursday. There's spots available for that. And then, Murph, you were talking about marketing. We have Mike Perini, who is one of our local resources, who's an excellent resource in February, on February 6th, who's going to be teaching a class on marketing. But what he's doing different this time is there is a link that you can provide your own case study. It'll be anonymous. He won't tell in the class who it is, but you can provide him with information about particular struggles you're going through, things like that. So that's going to be on February 6th with marketing in that respect. Again, this Thursday is the sales tax collection. We need to make sure that people are in compliance in what they do and how they report that. We certainly, as a city, want to be getting all the sales tax that is due to our city. So looking at that as well. And then we'll continue and be working with Karen as well about marketing efforts as far as staycations for this area. I will tell you, this is the first time since I've been here in 15 years that I'm seeing more Californians come back here. It used to be Texas was taking us over, well, California's coming back. So, thanks very much. If you have questions.
Okay, any questions to Debbie from the board? Thank you, Debbie. Nicole? Good morning.
So I'm going to wear two hats this morning. First hat is as your county assessor. The county continues to be a very conservative, focused county that handles your money in a very, very conservative way. And we spend it very, very wisely. Assessor's office, we did our job last year on valuations, and we reflect the marketplace. The marketplace in Colorado is very healthy, extraordinarily healthy, and as you just heard, California is focusing on those folks in high-tech states like California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Jersey, New York, Hawaii. People love living there, they just don't like the tax consequences of living here. We're moving here and other places like Wyoming. And
And then changing it to the same track structure that it just left.
Yeah.
We're trying. But my office works for you. We reflect the marketplace. And the treasurer's job is to collect the taxes as we give them the tax rolls. And that just happened. So you'll be getting tax bills from the treasurer's office. The marketplace is growing. And when you compare Colorado to, say, West Virginia, my father was from, and some other Appalachian areas, it's great to live here and have this growth. So as your assessor, things are looking good. The market forecast for the next couple of years is looking very healthy along the front range. And we're just in microcosm in the front range. From Fort Collins all the way down to Trinidad. So as your assessor, things are looking good. We serve you. We're here to help, here to serve, and here to reflect the marketplace. That's what we do. If you have questions, concerns, comments on what's going to be going on in the marketplace, I think you know we're a very, very transparent office. We serve you 110%. Secondly, I'll put on my business hat. I'd like to touch on what Tanner said about the Space Force and the developments in Colorado Springs. What may occur this year will be extraordinarily transformative for the area. It's up to President Trump to decide on the headquarters for the Space Force. Colorado Springs already has very, very much of that business. I came out of that world. Almost 30 years in space ops and jet ops. I've run the world and the Springs. And I was a certified space operator at the highest level and a NORAD senior officer. I know that world well. Once the president decides where that operational headquarters is going to be, it could be Schriever or Peterson Air Force Base. We're looking at another 3 to 10, 15, 20,000 positions. There's already 10 to 15,000 jobs already. They're not going anywhere if we know, as far as we know. If he decides on Colorado Springs, Colorado in general, great. Also, I understand the U.S. Army is looking at returning an overseas brigade back to Fort Carson. It's another 5,000 troops. You're in the Army, you understand all those numbers. But let me give you the promise of the Space Force, which I'm intimately aware of. It would be like acquiring another Air Force Academy. It's that promise of another Air Force Academy. Creation of a space university. We already have a space training at Peterson. It's a space school. But with this creation of a Space Force, wherever that's located, Florida, Huntsville, Alabama, Colorado, perhaps California, having that university is going to be significant. It's going to be a graduate school. The kind of school I used to teach at and work at. Astrophysics, astronautics, satellites, spaceship development. By the way, Colorado up in Denver, through Sierra Nevada, they're already developing the next generation of spaceships. It's a beautiful space plane. It carries 7 astronauts into space. They have about 7 in production right now in Lafayette area. This beautiful space plane. And it goes up for a month or 2. Connects to space stations. So understanding the promise here, what this town can do, and I have some thoughts on this, a lot of good thoughts on it, is we can start looking at the potential of an advanced tech center up here that will take part of the growth of Colorado Springs, on the Space Force, advanced technical training that will be going there, quantum computing, biotech, various kinds of engineering, okay, satellite development, which a lot of is done in Denver, the creation of the Space University. So how do we do that? It's marketing. In about 3 months, the Space Symposium will occur, sponsored by the Space Foundation. We're expecting 12 to 15,000 folks. I've been going to the Space Foundation Symposium for about 30 years now, 35 years. Expected transactional development this spring at the Space Symposium is approximately $35 billion. $35 billion in contracts will either be arranged at the Space Symposium or because of it afterwards. Last year was about $35 billion. We're expecting about the same this year. That's 10% of the world space market done this spring in Colorado Springs. So I'll be there. It's a week-long conference. Perhaps we should look at how the DDA in this city becomes a part of the space enterprise in Colorado Springs. It's a healthy enterprise. And I know the players. More than happy to help. I think we ought to be looking at that. We're looking at how we work with, say, with the Catalyst campus and other folks down there on development something. Advanced tech centers, engineering, biotech, medicine, stuff I've said. We have an opportunity here to have a little bit of that business. Not 10%, maybe a quarter of 1%, which is pretty healthy.
I'm still okay with that.
We're talking thousands of jobs down there. They can't all be clustered around Peterson and Schriever. But Security, Fountain, all those little towns are focusing on this too. But they don't have what we have here. But so I just want to throw that out from my personal business civilian hat, not as assessor.
Yeah, that's good information.
So
Obviously, most of us here did not know that.
So I'm more than happy to work with the development team here in the city, the county, Chamber of Commerce. By the way, I was informed last week that the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce, one of their business teams, is setting aside about $1 million to work on getting the Space Force to the Springs. They have $1 million budget for marketing to bring the Space Force to Colorado Springs. We'll see what happens. It's a very political decision. And I'll leave you with this. There are 27 electoral votes in Florida where President Trump has just announced his relocation to for his personal address. People in Florida are working hard on the president to bring the Space Force headquarters down to Florida, perhaps Bay County and Tyndall Air Force Base, where I was stationed on F-22s in NORAD. Here to help as your assessor. Next month, this quarter, I'll be here with our latest abstract of fees and mill levies. Hand that out to you. We just got it updated. And I'm happy to help as a private citizen on marketing to the space community. Yes, ma'am?
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, it looks like there's some I don't know.
I would like to find out. She's new. Is she?
If she is. Ma'am, I'm sorry. We don't recognize you.
Me?
Yes.
Jan Anderson, Diamond Campground.
Jan, okay. Thank you for coming, Jan.
I don't have business in downtown, so
Uh-huh.
I have not been involved in the committee, but certainly we bring in enough people that if we had a little bit nicer downtown area, I think it'd be a huge draw. So I'm just interested in seeing the making progress, if I can do anything to help with that progress.
Well, thank you, Jan. Well, we really appreciate you coming to our meetings. Nice to see some new positive faces. Yes?
I just have a comment to Jan. Is there any way you can expand? You know, when you think about it, this, what people are doing, everybody owns a motorhome or camping trailers and all, and if there's no place in Woodland Park for them to stay, they're not. I mean, they're just going to keep on going through. I think with your business, it could be real crucial to bringing more people to stay in this area and all. It's just we got to figure that out. All right.
And our goal is to bring in tourism. Unlike other RV parks, where it's more of a year-round living condition, our goal is we focus on the tourists.
Yep.
So we want to bring in those dollars. They stay for a week, they stay for a week. But they're going, they're staying in our campground, but they're going to Colorado Springs and eat at the restaurants down there. So it would be nice when they check in. They say, "Where can I go eat? We can. Where can I go have a nice beer or whatever?" That we can have some more options than we usually currently have.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I advertise in the Southwest Publications map that they use when I can afford it.
That's great, Janice, that's great. Well, we'd love to have you on board. We'd like to invite you tomorrow night to come to our COG meeting at the lodge too, because that's going to be very tourist type oriented, I think. I don't know, but we'd like to have your input on that. Well, we hope to see you again.
On the note of a new person being here, I really like that. Okay, Jan, please bring friends. And hey guys, I challenge everybody, try and bring somebody with you to one of these meetings. Okay, I mean, it takes manpower and bodies to make this stuff happen. Bring friends. Try and get them interested. Try and get them excited about it. Okay, please.
Thank you. Okay, we are done. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
What about the executive session?
We don't have one. Do we have one? No.
Is there a reason for one?
We don't have one.
We have it scheduled just in case.
So made.
All right. All
Second.
those in favor? Opposed? Hearing none? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for
Well,
coming. Sally, I would like to talk to you about the address of who makes your plaques for
Don't look at
the
me like that.
Historical Preservation Committee. Can I get that from you? Well, the plaques, the brass plaques.
Yes.
Okay, and me first.
Yeah, yes.